Hey everybody, what's up? Circus here with another Power Rankings video. This one's going to be for March 29th through April 4th. I'm joined by Kamell and Negative1. How you guys doing?
I'm all right, man. What's
Doing
up?
well.
Good. All right. So what we do is we take all the results from the tournaments that happened in the past week, and then we see how the decks finish, and then we assign points and then rank them. So basically, the tournaments that we're going to be covering here are Battle Phase Monday, Battle Phase Friday, Meta Weekly 118, the Pharaoh's Cash Tournament 66, and the Warrior Link Masters Meta Weekly number 9. All right, and then the way we decide who gets what and how they get scored is if you get a first place, if the deck gets a first place finish, it gets 6 points. If it gets second place, it gets 4 points. If it's in the top 4, 2 points, and then if it's in the top 8, it gets 1 point. So, looking at all that and taking that all in, on the screen you can see Invoked Element Sabers, first place, 24 points. What do you think about that, Kamel?
I mean, Element Sabers were right behind Shiranui last week. They were second. Shiranui was first. And I think that really came down to which decks ultimately came out on top in the tournaments, right? Which deck won more tournaments last week? Shiranui cleaned up, won 3 tournaments this week. Invoke Element Saber cleaned up, won 3 tournaments. The Battle Phase Monday, the Meta Weekly, and Battle Phase Friday. So that is what contributed to the bulk of the deck's points.
Now, Neg, you're not surprised by this at all, are you?
Not really.
I mean,
But,
if there's one deck that people associate with Neg One, it's going to be this deck. So, why is it having why is it having so much success this week? Was it just luck, or was it the people playing the deck?
I think, well, in a card game, there's always a little bit of luck, but generally, Element Sabers, like, they went up in part due to the meta. Just the last week, the Rise of Shira is a good thing for Sabers because Sabers have a good matchup against Shiranui. So as a result, they went up in the rankings.
Yeah, I'm looking here, and it looks like at least 2 of the finishes were Element Saber versus Shiranui, and Element Saber comes out on top.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely holds true. Why do they have such a good matchup?
Well, it's mostly that. Well, it's for a few reasons. Principally, Shiranui is a synchro deck, and Element Sabers are really good against synchro decks because they flip monsters face down. And when you have a face down tuner, you can't really synchro summon.
Okay.
And it's also because Shiranui is very grave based, and they're all fires. So once they put their monsters into the grave as setup, Element Sabers can just go for Alistair and summon Purgatrio.
So they can just use your graveyard against you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and just to reference a couple of the decks that were played, like, and a lot of these Element Saber decks, like, you're seeing the Malehu, the flips, and then you're seeing the Floodgates, the Canadias, the Mirror Walls, just everything to destroy you, make sure you do not synchro summon, you do not make, plays in a turn.
So it's become more of a control deck, right? Because we're seeing versions playing 15 traps.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. That's what's going on right now.
So, Neg, did you ever think this deck would become a control deck?
I think it always has been to some extent.
I mean, it's over the top now. I mean, 15 traps. Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah. Well, before they would have like 3 cyclones, so they could play more aggressive and just
Right.
remove back row and go for game. But now, without cyclone, they really have to put more space into defense. So.
Okay. That makes sense. All right. Moving on to number 2, Shiranui, 23 points. So 1 point behind Element Sabers. Drops from its number 1 spot to number 2. But it had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 tops this past week. But couldn't take any championships home. I guess it was just because it kept running up against Element Sabers.
Well, partially part of that is because last week Shiranui's were the number 1 deck of the power rankings. And if we want to flex our own clout, we could say that
Yeah, we
people saw
influenced
that
it.
and they
Yeah,
were like, "Oh man, Shiranui, that's
I'm
the
in
deck
there.
to play this week. I'm in there." So that's why everyone was playing Shiranui. That's why it topped so much.
Right.
But Element Saber, like Neg just finished saying, a great deck against Shiranui, a great deck to play when Shiranui is going to be very popular. Right below that, we have Dark Magician. It saw a resurgence this week in the meta, winning the PCT, getting a top 4
Yep.
spot in the WLM series. So Dark Magician was not very high at all last week on the tier list. It was like what,
Ninth
ninth or
place.
something?
Yeah, it shot
Oh
up
my
6
gosh.
spots this week.
Yeah, a tournament win, netting you 6 points for your deck will do that. That was a PCT win. Let me see the other decks that were.
Dark Magician. That, like we said, was number 9 last week. Almost dropped out of the meta. What's the change this week, Neg?
Oh well, wait, just some background information. The PCT tournament did not have a side deck
Okay.
format,
Interesting.
so maybe that contributes to the reason.
And generally, the deck's very good when there's no side deck to worry about.
Okay.
But it's also because Dark Magician has a really good invoked matchup and a good matchup against slower Shiranui builds.
Mhm.
So Dark Magician is generally strong against any deck that struggles putting out multiple big monsters quickly and stuff that just can't OTK them because they're a slow deck as well, so they need a turn to set up. But if you do give them a turn to set up, they generally can kill any sort of back row strategy. So you see Shiranui is really good with getting a first turn Squire into Spectral Sword, and then it'll have a follow-up, and then it'll set its back row. But what DM is good at is it just summons an end phase, banishes a back row, and then has a negate for the other back row. So it can just steamroll through those boards.
All right. I mean, it's not something we expected to see because we thought the deck was almost dead.
Well, yeah, I mean, we did think it was dead, but just because I think of the tournaments that it did perform in, contributing to that, Casey Cup factor, I think that's why Dark Magician performed well in a tournament like the PCT this week.
Well, if you look in the the WLM, it was 3 of the top 8.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to Blue Eyes in the 4th spot. Moving up 1 from 5th last week. This deck's just not. It's a tier 1 deck, right? But it's just not performing the way you would think it would, I guess, right?
Yeah, there's a few things that are really hurting Blue Eyes right now, and it's generally just the strength of Shiranui and just the buff to Thunder Dragons. So Thunder Dragons is a really hard matchup for Blue Eyes because they do what Blue Eyes do, but more consistently. And Shiranui can summon the level 10 Sun Saga, and that's really difficult for them to get over.
Well, you mentioned Thunder Dragons. They're number 6 this week. They fell 3 spots. How does that correlate? Because you said, Thunder Dragons are better, but here we are. We're seeing them in the 6th spot.
Well, if I may offer something to that, I think that is partially due to the fact that maybe that new card alert shine kind of fell off after a week of the deck, and people aren't trying it out as much. They figured out, oh, do I want to play this deck? Do I not want to commit to picking up Thunder Dragons? And now the people that are playing it are like, these are the people that are going to be playing the deck. A lot of people who were just trying it out because of Chaos Dragon Living Near are no longer.
So just fewer people playing the deck.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So Blue Eyes, back to Blue Eyes. There's just too many decks that have a good matchup against it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Here's a deck I'm always going to pick on Neg with is Crystron's in spot 5. Best deck in the game, but yet it just can't get up there. I don't know what's up with that. It's in spot 5. It was in 8th last week, so it did move up 3 spots.
Yes, it did nab itself a runner-up spot in Battle Phase Monday.
And top 4 Battle Phase Monday. So 2 of them in Battle Phase Monday, and then top 8 Battle Weekly. Neg, what's going on here? And don't tell me it's too big brain and there's only one person piloting the deck. That's not true, is it?
Or that Crystron's is the best deck that nobody plays. So
is it just every week we're gonna say it's the best deck, just nobody knows how to play it? Is it really that hard of a deck? Really?
Well, it's not easy. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
It's possible to learn it, and like if you want to get good at the deck, you can play it like proficiently. It's just an issue of a lot of people don't want to spend the time learning Crystron's because Crystron's can be very punishing.
Like you're gonna lose a lot.
Yeah. So like if you make mistakes, it can often result in just like a loss entirely because you didn't pay attention to this, or you didn't remember to activate this effect on this turn, or you activated this too early. So there's a lot of pitfalls that can hurt people who play the deck. However, if you do play it optimally, it is one of the best decks in the game.
So if it was a flow chart, it would say, do you want to activate an effect? Yes. Continue your game. No, you lose.
It's a little more complicated than that.
Well, yeah, at each juncture, each time you got to do something, it's like, continue your game or lose.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. It's just very difficult to play in a tournament setting. And then there's also the added issue of side deck because Crystron's can really struggle in side deck format because of System Down.
Right. So, System Down alone is just such an impressive card. Pretty much eliminates your entire strategy at the point of activation.
Well, I guess my argument every week is going to be, yes, on paper it might be the best deck, but if it's not winning, is it really the best deck?
Well, I think for power rankings, it might not be.
Right.
But it's like a general rule. Even if it's hard to play, the best deck should be the best deck.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, isn't the best deck the one that anybody can pick up and play and win with?
I don't know. That is subjective, I think.
Well, if I can pick up a Shiranui deck and win a tournament, isn't that the best deck to play? And if I pick up Crystron's and I wash out in Swiss, is it really the best deck?
Well, the best deck is like what will win the most if played perfectly, you know?
So this is all theoretical stuff. This is all just, we're just running numbers on a computer here, and it spits out a result. Neg's got a computer from the 1930s in his house. You know, it takes up like 6 rooms, and it's all vacuum tubes, and it takes 3 days.
And it spits out the tier list at the end of like a 3-day cycle.
Right, yeah, and it's on a tape, and it's just all dots, and he's got to decode it. Yeah.
I can't call anybody while it's processing.
I don't know. I'm always going to debate that one with Crystron's being the best deck. It might be a great deck, but if it's not winning to me, it's not the best deck.
Circus will fight that to the death.
To the death! That's right. The last one I wanted to point out, though, was Invoked Magician Girls. It was 4th place last week. Dropped 4 spots to number 8.
Yeah, that's what happens when your deck does not get a tournament win. You do not get those points.
Yep, so... Well, last week there was some people that thought, Invoked Magician Girls, come on, guys. how can you say they're,
Yeah,
they're
those are the
a top
comments.
deck? And it's like we're not saying it's a top deck. It
Well,
won a tournament, you know.
Well, people were experimenting, with the draw 2 Wonder Wand on the berry. Like that's a pretty efficient way to draw, man. Draw 2 like that.
Yep.
So people were using that to speed up their own vote. It worked for a little bit, but I guess it's not as popular anymore.
All right, so if you're going into the next week, I personally would say just stick with your Element Sabers or Shiranui. You could play Crystons, but you're probably going to lose.
I think I gotta say, man, your Element Sabers are looking like the best deck right now because the meta is starting to settle, right? Our new cards, they have been out for a week now. This is the second week of tournaments that's been played with them. So things are starting to settle. We're not going to be getting any new cards for a while. And I think a lot of the lists are going to start to be optimized, and we're going to settle somewhere around here. Shiranui, Element Saber, and Thunder Dragon's Blue Eyes behind him.
All right, Ned, what do you think is going to be at the top next week?
I definitely think Sabers and Shiranui. Dark Magician, it may stay there. I think Blue Eyes is going to drop, and Thunder Dragons is going to maybe move up.
All right, well, we'll hold you to it. 'Cause I do believe MA last week said Thunder Dragons, right? He said Thunder Dragons were going to top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Thunder Dragons they did not secure the wins, man. That's really what
they
it
just
comes
didn't
down
bring
to.
it home, sitting at
Yeah.
2 top 4s and a 2 top 8s. So, all right, everybody. I hope you liked this video. We're going to do it again next week because we love doing it. Why don't you tell us in the comments what you think is going to be the #1 deck? It's definitely not going to be Crystron, so don't even bother putting that in the comments. So if you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe, Discord, Twitch, Twitter, all that good stuff.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming out.
All right, I'm Circus. That's Kamell. That's Neg1. We'll see you next time.
Peace out.
Peace.